ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهديه الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Inshallah ta'ala we'll try to go through the sifat or the characteristics of the believers mentioned in the Quran, since today is about akhlaq or manners, and try to expand on each quality so that it will change our life. And this is our duty, to read the Quran, to ponder over the verses of the Quran with that intention, that we want to apply what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. This is how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they received the Quran. It was not just for the blessings of recitation, this is one act of worship, but to learn it, to understand what it means, and to apply it in their life. And they did that in the most perfect way. And because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with them and they were pleased with Him. So getting to know that is one of the acts of worship, and with the intention that we want to apply this in our life. Before I forget also, since the dars is always after Isha, we should not forget Sunnatul Isha, the 2 rak'ah after Isha, which is one of the Sunan al-Ratiba, the 12 rak'ah Sunnah throughout the day and the night, in which whoever prays them, as the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will build a house of Jannah for that person. 2 before Fajr, 4 before Dhuhr, 2 after Dhuhr, 2 after Maghrib, 2 after Isha. Plus the witr, of course. This is, of course, something to be mentioned. But we should not forget that, inshallah. And without any particular order, but I thought of starting with the characteristics of the believers mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun. We mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun, and the ayah or the surah is named by the believers, and it talks about the believers. And in the beginning of the surah, the first ayah in it, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, indeed, no doubt, aflah meaning from al-falah, that means that are successful, the goodness that never terminated or never stops. Because al-khayr or goodness can come once in a while. But al-falah is something that once it comes, it stays. It doesn't depart from the person, it's forever. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed, the mu'minun, the believers, they are successful. Everlasting success that is continuous in this life and in the hereafter. What is the first quality mentioned is al-mu'minun, our believers, right? So this is a quality by itself. And we need to always be reminded of this quality of al-iman. But we'll take the first or the second quality mentioned, which is الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those who are in their salah, they are in state of khushu'ah, khashi'un. They are in that state. This is one of the characteristics. The reason why we won't talk today about al-iman, because we're talking about that in Sahih Imam al-Bukhari, and the meaning of al-iman, right, and the comprehensive meaning of al-iman. Because قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ is not just those who have some belief in their hearts. Al-mu'minun, those who understand the meaning of al-iman the right way, according to the people of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that it's a speech and action, the belief in the heart, the deeds done by the heart, the speech of the tongue, the different acts of the different parts of the body. So it's the whole entire human being, the whole entire deen of Islam is all about al-iman. So the mu'minun, those who are successful, those who perfect their iman, and they repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on. But the next quality which is mentioned, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, that those who are in state of khushu'ah, they have khushu'ah. And the khushu'ah is mentioned in the Quran in some verses, and a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. But the word khushu'ah literally, linguistically, means something that is not moving too much, something that is humble, something that is down. It can mean humbleness or humility, right? It can give the meaning of a sukoon, which is something that is not moving, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمِنْ آيَاتِي أَنَّكَ تَرَى الْأَرْضَ خَاشِعَةً فَإِذَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهَا الْمَاءَ اهْتَزَّتْ وَرَبَتْ. that from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you see the earth khashi'a. That the earth is khashi'a, meaning it's not doing anything, it's not moving. Like a barren land, like the desert. فَإِذَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهَا الْمَاء, when we bring down on it the water, اهتزت وربت. Then it starts moving and getting the plants out and so on. There is life on it. Before it was khashi'a, that means it stands still, not moving, not doing anything. So the same thing with the khushu'a that we are ordered to observe, mainly in the salah, but throughout the whole entire life of the believers. But this characteristic mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ. The salah specifically is mentioned that they are in state of khushu'a. And the khushu'a is in the heart and also shows in the different actions of the different parts of the body. And we are warned from khushu'a al-nifaq. Khushu'a al-nifaq is the khushu'a of the hypocrites. Those who their parts of their body, they are in state of khushu'a, they are calm, they're not moving. They look like they're humbling themselves and focusing and concentrating in their salah, but their hearts are not. And this is not what is meant by khushu'a. Khushu'a is not something to be seen that he is a khasha'. He is someone in state of khushu'a because he looks like this, or his head is like this. No, this is not a sign of khushu'a. The khushu'a is a deed done by the heart. Yes, physical acts are very important, and we follow the way the Prophet ﷺ, when he used to stand in the salah, he used to look at the position of the sujood, which is the outcome of the khushu'a in the heart. And the Prophet ﷺ called that the one that looks right and left, he is the worst thief, the one that steals from his salah, steals a look here or there, in which we are ordered to look at our position of sujood as a way of humbleness, to focus on what is being said, and to concentrate on everything that we say and everything that we hear in the salah, because this is the most important thing in our life. So if we look at the verses of the Quran that talks about al-khushu', you would find it in some of the signs of Allah, as we heard in this ayah, which means of humbleness or means of humility. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَاسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْجِبَالِ فَقُلْ يَنْسِفُهَا رَبِّي نَسْفًا فَيَذَرُهَا قَاعًا صَفْصَفًا لَا تَرَى فِيهَا عِوَجًا وَلَا أَمْتًا يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَّبِعُونَ الدَّاعِيَ لَا عِوَجَ لَهُ وَخَشَعَتِ الْأَصْوَاتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ فَلَا تَسْمَعُ إِلَّا هَمْسًا. Which means in the day of judgment, when the mountains will be destroyed and so on, and people would be in such a state, وَخَشَعَتِ الْأَصْوَاتُ. Aswat is the plural of sawt. Sawt is voice. There will be no voice. Khashat al-aswat, that means no voice whatsoever. Instead of khushu', instead of sukoon, there is no voice whatsoever, quietness. Why? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَا تَسْمَعُ إِلَّا هَمْسًا, you would only hear whispering out of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the humbleness that they have. This is the khushu' of the people in the day of judgment. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that about the Quran. If it was to be brought down onto a mountain, that you would find it خاشعا. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. As a result of the fear of Allah, if this Quran is to come down onto a mountain, you would find the mountain خاشعا. خاشعا meaning in state of humility, humbleness. متصدعا being cracked as a result of the heavy weight of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called the faces of the disbelievers in the day of judgment. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ خَاشِعَةٌ. Faces on the day the day of judgment, will be khashi'ah. Right? But this is a khushu' because they missed the proper khushu' in this life. They were supposed to humble themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they didn't. And they lived their life arrogantly. As a result of that, in the day of judgment, they will be in state of humility. And they would have that khushu', which is not the act of worship that we're talking about. So the ayah of Surah Al-Mu'min that we're discussing, also there are many of the verses talks about what's going to happen to the people in the day of judgment. With the horrors of the day of judgment, people will be in that state of khushu'. Without going into many of these verses, but it also means the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Zakaria, that he said سبحانه وتعالى وأصلحنا له زوجة إنهم كانوا يسارعون في الخيرات ويدعوننا رغبا ورهبا وكانوا لنا خاشعين. That Zakaria alayhi salam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made his wife righteous for him as a reward for him and for both of them, because they used to يسارعون, they used to be in haste, rushing into the matters of goodness for khayrat, doing what is good, and they would call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala رغبا ورهبا, seeking the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَانُوا لَنَا خَاشِعِينَ, and they used to be in that state of khushu'. They said in the tafsir the meaning of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the humbleness that comes as a result of that. Also, it can mean التواضع or humbleness, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ, that seek help in sabr, in patience, and in salah. And the salah is heavy, is big, except for those who are in state of khushu'. That means it's difficult for those, for people, unless they are in that state of khushu' and humbleness. They don't have arrogance. Those who الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, those who believe in the last day that they would meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what makes it easy for them to establish the salah and to have the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised also the believers, which is another qualities that we will talk about it inshallah ta'ala some other time in Surah Al-Ahzab, in the Muslimina wal-Muslimat, wal-Mu'minina wal-Mu'minat, wal-Qanitina wal-Qanitat, wal-Sadiqina wal-Sadiqat, wal-Sabirina wal-Sabirat, men and women, wal-Khashi'ina wal-Khashi'at. Those Khashi'in, men, al-Khashi'at, women. So it's both for men and women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised the believers, those who have these qualities. وَالْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ وَالْمُتَصَدِّقَاتِ, those who give charity. وَالصَّائِمِينَ وَالصَّائِمَاتِ وَالْحَافِظِينَ فُرُوجَهُمْ, those who protect their private parts. وَالْحَافِظَاتِ وَالذَّاكِرِينَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَالذَّاكِرَاتِ, those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala much. أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةً وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prepared for them forgiveness and a great reward from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala as a result of these qualities. So it's not lineage, it's not how we look, it's not what our parents are, it's not one deed here or there, it's qualities. And the quality of the person does not leave him. It's not a quality unless it's there at all times. If it's an action done once in a while, that's not a sifa. Right? The sifa means it's something that doesn't leave you. That's why when we talk about the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these sifat are not created, right, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a very famous point of deviation, right, that takes the person outside the fold of Islam. If he believes that the creation or the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are nothing but a creation of Allah. Like the fitna that happened at the time of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, when he was tested by the Quran. When they said, the Jahmiyyah, they say that the Quran is makhluk, it's a creation of Allah. Quran is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's one of the attributes of Allah. Why this is a big deal? Why this is an important issue? Because it's a matter of aqeedah, a matter of belief. The attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not something separated from the creator of the heavens and the earth. And to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best example. So the same thing when you talk about someone that he is generous, for example. He's not someone that did an act of generosity one time, he got excited, he felt bad, something that he made him to give for the sake of Allah. This is not a generous person. He did an act of generosity. But someone generous, that means this is in him. It comes from him, as we said, the meaning of al-akhlaq, something that is present in the heart that makes the act done without any takalluf, without going out of your ways to do it. Becomes part of your norm. Becomes the norm of the person. It doesn't mean that we're all in that level from the very beginning, but when we work on ourselves and we are patient and taking the means to achieve these qualities, then a person reaches this level that it becomes his norm. That's why people in the salah are in levels. Those who neglect it altogether, those who makes it, but they undermine even sometimes the pillars of the salah or the mandatory things, where they pray at home, they don't pray in the masajid. And those who would come to the masajid and pray, and they work on themselves to have khushu', and they're always in that struggle and many times they're not, and few times they are. And these are levels. And according to these levels, the person will gain so much rewards. And it's a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way the person live his life. Sins affect the way the person be in khushu' in the salah, or the joy in the salah is all affected by our life and our sins, and who do we see and interact with and live with and so on. And the more the person work on himself and he focus on this, till a person reaches a level when he starts the salah, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said in the meaning of which, فَكَأَنَّمَا يعني طَرَحَ قَلْبَهُ بَيْنَ يَدَيِ اللَّهِ, as if he just give his heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means he is in that level where the Prophet ﷺ said, وَجُعْلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ, that the salah was made to me the jewel of my eyes. The joy of the Prophet ﷺ is when he is in the salah. Someone that get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he ﷺ, the best that get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his names and attributes, and this is one of the means to have khushu'. The more you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more the person will have the khushu' and so on. So these are attributes, characteristics that it's not once in a while, it's something that a person has to work on himself till it becomes his norm. The Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith, مَا مِنْ إِمْرِئٍ Muslim تَحْضُرُهُ صَلَاةٌ مَكْتُوبَةٌ. There is no Muslim. And the statements of the Prophet ﷺ are very precise. And in this statement, it's very exclusive. There is no Muslim person. The salah comes to him, تَحْضُرُهُ صَلَاةٌ مَكْتُوبَةٌ. The salah comes, the time of the salah, maktuba, obligatory salah comes, فَيُحْسِنْ وضوءها, and he would yuhsin from an ihsan, that he would perfect its wudu, he would make the wudu a good wudu, وخشوعها وركوعها, and he would perfect his khushu' of the salah and the ruku' of the salah, إلا كانت كفارة لما قبلها من الذنوب, unless this salah becomes kafara, expiation to what's before it of sins. ما لم يؤتي كبيرا, as long as he is not involved into major sins. Major sin needs a special repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from it. وَذَلِكَ دَارَ كُلَّهُ, and this is till the whole life of the person. It means every time he makes salah, he will get that expiation, get that reward, as long as he is perfecting his wudu and he has the khushu' and perfecting his ruku', meaning the actions that he do in the salah. Also the Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith in Nasa'i and others, and Shaykh al-Bani rahimahullah authenticated it, that he said عليه الصلاة والسلام مثل المجاهد في سبيل الله والله أعلم بمن يجاهد في سبيله كمثل الصائم القائم الخاشع الراكع الساجد. The Prophet ﷺ showing the reward of those who would fight for the sake of Allah, and he said عليه الصلاة والسلام the example of the one that fights for the sake of Allah, and he said عليه الصلاة والسلام, and Allah knows best who is the one that is fighting for his sake, because it's all about the intentions, is like the one that is making siyam, and he's standing in the salah and he's khasha'. He is in state of khushu' and he's making ruku' and making sujood, praising the one that would have khushu' in the salah, and showing again the reward of those who would fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ used to know who behind him has khushu' or not. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. We, of course, nobody has this ability. This is something that was given to the Prophet ﷺ. And he said عليه الصلاة والسلام هل ترون قبلتي ها هنا? Do you see my qibla right there? This hadith is in Bukhari and others. He said والله ما يخفى علي ركوعكم ولا خشوعكم وإني لأراكم من وراء ظهري. He said والله ما يخفى, meaning is not hidden from me your ruku' or your khushu', your humbleness in the salah, and I see you from behind my back, although he is facing the qibla alayhi salatu wassalam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Prophet ﷺ this ability to see that. There are the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إن الله لا ينظر إلى صوركم وأموالكم ولكن ينظر إلى قلوبكم وأعمالكم, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at your صوركم, your bodies, how you look like, and your wealth, but He looks at your hearts and your deeds. Your hearts and your deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is where the محل نظر الرب subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hearts comes first. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees from the human being. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from the human being. And as we heard before that, it's the hikmah, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He created us different and we look different and we have what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us different things. But when it comes to the orders from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're all the same. And that's why this is the criteria of superiority, is the fear of Allah, the actions to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on. If we try to look at the way of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, there are amazing narrations of this. Just 5 minutes inshallah, although the matter is very comprehensive, and it's one of the means to have khushu', is to get to know how was the salah of the Prophet ﷺ, how was the salah of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the tabi'een, the a'imma of this deen, how they used to have that khushu' in the salah, although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in the hearts, of course, and how their salah used to be, and comparing that to our salah, right? And how they used to enjoy their salah. This is one of the means that gets one's zeal to improve one's iman and so on. If we talk about the Prophet ﷺ, many narrations of how once the Prophet ﷺ starts his salah, again this is the most joyful thing to the Prophet ﷺ, and he'd say, "Rihna biha ya Bilal," "O Bilal, give us the comfort by making the iqamah," so that they would start the salah. The Prophet ﷺ would start the salah, and he would want to make it long, but he would shorten it because of the buka of as-sabi. He hears a young child crying, so he would shorten the salah, although he wants the opposite, right? Why? So that he, out of the concern towards the mother, that her heart is attached to that child, she's worried about her child, and she has to finish her salah. But otherwise, the Prophet ﷺ, his wish, or what he wants, is that he would spend as much as he would like to be in the salah. The Prophet ﷺ, the Quran says about the recitation of the Quran in Fajr, that it's witnessed by the angels. So the Prophet ﷺ used to recite in Salatul Fajr like 60 ayah in the salah, right? And this is, the Salatul Fajr is the more likely salah that a person didn't commit sins yet, he just woke up, so the heart is clean, right? So it's more likely for the person supposed to be, have more khushu', and this is where a person can listen to the Quran and so on. And he ﷺ would weep as a result of listening to the Quran, and they would hear the voice of his weeping in his chest, ﷺ, like you have something boiling that has a noise to it. The same thing where the Prophet ﷺ would recite the Quran, and when the Quran is revealed to him and so on. And there are many evidences of this, which shows the khushu', how the hearts get affected, right? And the famous incident of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu anhu, when the Prophet ﷺ told him, "Recite Quran to me." He said, "I recited to you, and you are the Prophet of Allah." He said, "Yes, I like to listen to it from others." So he recited from Surah An-Nisa till he reached the ayah where he says, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. That on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make the Prophet ﷺ witness against his ummah, or against the people. So the Prophet ﷺ said to Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, "Hasbuk," stop there. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud looked at him and he found him weeping, alayhi salatu wassalam, as a result of this. And that's why really we have to take the means, especially if a person has the means, to try to understand the Quran, right? So that when we listen to the Quran, is not just listening to some beautiful voice, but instead to get to understand what the Quran is saying. It's a totally different level than having someone to explain to you the Quran. Is to relate directly to the verses of the Quran. And we're not talking about the verses that has ahkam or rulings or things halal and haram. Yes, we have to learn, of course, the rulings. But most of the Quran is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His names and attributes and His signs and the stories of the prophets and so on, the Jannah, the Hellfire. So to have that direct relationship, if a person has the means to spend the time to learn the language and so on, definitely this is a very good thing. Maybe inshallah ta'ala, because of the time, we can talk about examples of the khushu' or the salah of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the early generations of Islam. Next time, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us life, there are very specific incidences that have been saved for us. It's important for us to read it and to get to know and to have some idea how their ibadah, and this is how that affect our akhlaq. You would find definitely, for the most part, if a person, he gives so much attention to his salah, that affects his manners. It humbles oneself. And when a person has information or knowledge, but it's not reflecting upon one's ibadah, the ilm or the knowledge alone, as the ulama they say, يورث الطغيان, makes a person transgress, gives him kibr sometimes, arrogance. So how to get rid of this kibr? By humbling oneself in matters of ibadah, in the salah, in the sujood, and the recitation of the Quran, and this is the blessings of matters of knowledge. So we continue, inshallah ta'ala, we take too much of the time.